daily soccer podcast with the Global Sports Podcast Network.
Welcome to the Daily Premier League podcast. It is Thursday, the 18th of September. My name's Ken Davis. I'm joined by Nick Bird and Nick Britton. I am the cheese in a Nicky B sandwich. How are you doing, gents? Nick Bird, coming to you first. How are you doing, mate?
Happy to be back with you after we made some stellar predictions, I think, yesterday.
We nailed it, didn't we? We absolutely nailed it, and we're gonna wallow in our predictive success a little bit later in the podcast. Nick Britton, sporting his Derby County shirt, circa about 1995, I think. How are you doing?
I never, ever, by the way, ever want to be thinking about you in being in the middle of the sandwich where my name is in the same thing. So let's just get that image right out of my head. No, we're all good. Thank you very much. Very good. It's good to be back after my 24-hour break from this mighty podcast. It's all good.
Yeah, great. So I'm sorry, I didn't mean to imply that you were in any way involved in my cheese sandwich. It's not a Nick cheese sandwich.
You're just making it worse. Just shut up.
It's purely a threesome. So let's move on. With our threesome, we've got three things to talk about today in this threesome. Firstly, I want to just run over the games last night. We all watched them. They were interesting pointers from that. We're also going to take a closer look at West Ham because there was a letter of no confidence we're in, as we know, from a fan group there. Something of a response from the West Ham board today. Interesting response, I thought. We'll talk about that. And thirdly, and we'll probably do this in passing, Liverpool comeback kings again. Is it a strength? Or are they really just papering over some cracks that eventually are going to break? So we're going to talk about that. We'll probably get Nick to give us predictions on the two games tonight, which is Manchester City against Napoli and Newcastle against Barcelona. And we'll see what happens there. So Nick's already shaking his head.
Well, I might give my predictions on your terrible accent. Yeah.
I beg your pardon. Right, okay. So last night's games. Liverpool 3-2, Bayern 3-1 against Chelsea. Coming to you first, Nicky Bird. You predicted 2-0 victory for Liverpool. I predicted 2-1 with a late goal involved. FYI, everyone, a late goal was predicted. What did you take away from Liverpool game last night?
Hopefully they can't keep getting away with it from an Arsenal perspective, but they definitely dominated the game. I think Wirtz looked far better yesterday than he had in any of their other games. I don't think Isak really did anything, as we kind of predicted yesterday as well, but they got over the line. Watching those corners in added time, it felt like one would eventually go in because they were finding Konate, they were finding Van Dijk. So the set-piece defence was pretty poor, and then eventually Van Dijk turns one in, and it's the same old story again so far this season for Liverpool.
Same old story. You're right. Salah looked more on song. I thought, obviously, they got off to an absolute flyer, 2 goals in 6 minutes. Nick Britton, Nick in Blue, what was your takeaway from the game last night?
That Liverpool are very, very good and really annoying at scoring late goals. And you knew, I was watching a game with my son, and I said to him, when that corner came that he scored from, I said to him, they will score because that's what they do. They score in the 90th minute plus of every game they play. It feels like. And what Nick just said there a moment ago was absolutely right. It was coming. It was coming, and it was coming. And you could just about tell. Now, on the weekend, they needed an absolutely ridiculously, just a moment of utter madness to get a penalty to win it in the last seconds. Here, it was a brilliant header. It was a really, really good header from Van Dijk. He's lost his man. He's sort of jostled him out of the way. He's taken a step back, and he's put a header in pretty much the only places it could have gone in to actually enter the net. It was a very, very good header. I don't think, as much as we might all laugh at Liverpool scoring in the 90-plus minute every single game, you mustn't detract from actually it was a very, very, very good goal. I thought it was a slightly better performance from... In fact, I thought, no, let's get this right. It was a much better performance from Liverpool, particularly in the first half than we've seen in the Premier League so far. Salah looked much more interested. He scored a brilliant goal. I mean, that was a really, as much as you want to moan about the defending, and it was poor defending, it was a really, really good goal. There was a middle part of the game where the Liverpool that we've seen quite a lot of this season so far in the Premier League kind of came up to the shore, if you like, because they just looked a little bit off it. They stepped off the gas, and suddenly from kind of 2-0 going into half time, there was that goal just before half time and injury time, and then another one midway through. And you then started to wonder, wow, okay, fine. Are they actually going to lose this? Are they going to lose this game? But they rallied and they did what Liverpool do so well. And one of the things that I love about them is just they never, ever, ever stop. They just go and go and go and go and go. And as we've seen, that just bears fruit. They could have said, okay, you know what? 2-2's all right. We'll settle for that. We were 2-0 up, but it's better than losing. We'll take a point. And a lot of managers would have had that attitude amongst them. A lot of players have. But they've got an absolutely winning mentality. And that gets you over the line in games like this.
Yeah, I think you're right. They kind of they just think they can win from anywhere. I think Liverpool and history would suggest it. We've been saying this about Liverpool since the first game of the season against Bournemouth, haven't we? When Bournemouth came back to 2-2, and we thought, well, oh dear, and they keep repeating it. We're going to come back to this later in the show. I'm not sure. There are issues, and I think we want to talk about. We'll talk about those issues a bit later on. The second game, Bayern against Chelsea. First thing I want to mention about this is that weird free kick where he seemed, and I'll be interested in your thoughts, particularly you, Nick, because you're a ref. He seemed to deliberately kick it at the ref, and therefore get a kind of a drop ball from a free kick and just break up the play a little bit from that set piece. One, do you think it was deliberate? And secondly, do you think, actually, is there any strategic advantage to doing that?
Well, it's quite interesting, isn't it? I mean, we know players seek every tiny little minute advantage. We know that already. We know the antics that they get up to. I've never seen... We know what the rules are now, by the way, just in case you don't know. The rules are this. If the ball hits the referee and rebounds to a team to give them a clear advantage, the referee has to stop the game, and it's an uncontested drop ball to the team who is in possession of the ball. So he doesn't have to stop the game. So if I kicked the ball and it hit the referee and bounced back to me and nothing happened and there was no disadvantage to me, then you can carry on the game. You don't actually have to stop it. But that doesn't normally happen. Normally it hits the referee and then goes somewhere else, and then he has to kind of feel like he has to stop the game. I've never known actually somebody kick it deliberately at the referee in order to stop the game and gain an advantage. That seems to me a bit counterintuitive, because if you've got the ball already, what's the point of gaining a drop ball, which then allows the opposition to get back into shape and get back into position by kicking it at the referee? It doesn't really make a lot of sense. Not a lot of logic to it. So I can't see that it was done deliberately, no.
But it led immediately to a goal.
Well, that's just the way it goes, isn't it?
It did. It was a very funny passage of play. It looked quite deliberate to me. Nick Bird, what's your opinion on that one?
I had it muted at that point, so I just assumed that the ref had got it wrong and it wasn't supposed to be a free kick, and then did the drop ball, and obviously it works its way out to Elise, puts it across and gets put in by Chalobah. So, I just assumed the ref had made a mistake and it was supposed to be a drop ball the whole time. No,
I think what we're going to see is millions of players smacking the ball at the ref now for the next 6 weeks until it gets banned. Right, okay. So just to recap on the game, it finished brilliantly predicted by Nick Bird at 3-1 for Bayern, which is exactly what you predicted. I predicted a 2-0 for Munich. Penalty, bit of a soft penalty, I thought. Kane, of course, scored. Great from the spot. Great goal from Cole Palmer, by the way. I think Cole Palmer is someone to have on, especially you, Nick. I'm looking at you now, Nick Britton, bottom of the league, fantasy league. It might be someone to consider for your fantasy league. Terrible mistake.
I've got Cole Palmer in my team. He's just been injured. I've had him in the team since day one. He's just been injured.
Yeah, this is why you're bottom of the Fantasy Premier League.
No, the only reason I'm bottom of our Fantasy Premier League team, which consists, by the way, of only 3 teams, is that you and the other bloke who's in it have got Haaland as captain. That is the only reason.
You are
That's
allowed
only-
to do that. I'm just saying it's not.
No, I don't think
two
so.
people
Yeah.
do it in the three, you can't do it.
No, I know
Just
that.
by the way, you might want to check
I know
the
that.
GSPN league. Are you checking out the GSPN Fantasy Football League?
I'm not even in that.
There's 22 players in that. Who's top of that?
Yeah, that's not the point. The point is, player for player, I'm doing better than you. You've just got Haaland as captain. And anyway, it wasn't a soft penalty. It was not a soft penalty last night. It was a very well-earned penalty by Harry Kane, who turned his man.
Yeah, he got on the right side.
Yeah, he turned his man. He rolled him, and he was the wrong side of him, and he was brought down. So there's nothing soft about it.
Fair enough. Terrible mistake by Chelsea to hand the ball back to Kane, and a brilliant finish by Kane, by the way. I thought for their third.
Yeah, so did I. There was a bit of a sliding doors moment, wasn't there, with Cole Palmer? I felt
Yes,
with his big toe being offside. It was a great goal.
Yeah.
It was. If that goes in and is counted, there's a potentially different result out of that game. There we are.
Yes, but entertaining games, as the Champions League always is entertaining. Two more games tonight. Nick, I'm going to come to you now. Nick Britton, I'm going to come to you now. We've predicted Man City against Napoli. Napoli are my favourites for the competition, by the way. I think they're going to win it. So you're going to be hear lots of me saying Napoli all the way through the rest of the season. And Newcastle, Barcelona. So give us your predictions for Man City, Napoli, and Newcastle, Barcelona.
If Napoli are your favourites to win the Champions League, I want to know what you're smoking, mate.
Well,
Literally, what planet are you on?
top of Serie A, 3 wins out of 3. Absolutely smashing it.
Mate, it's September.
Under Antonio Conte.
It's September. I mean, look, I'm used to how many decades have I known you? I'm used to your rubbish football talk. But this comes right up there. All right, Napoli won't win, and they won't win tonight. Man City will win. There you go. Bye.
What score?
Well, I have to give scores now, do I? Blimey.
Yeah.
3-1.
3-1. Okay, and here's a big one: Newcastle, Barcelona.
And you'll probably try and change the rules so that you get points for Haaland scoring in your fantasy league team because that's what you're like. It doesn't count. It doesn't count.
Well,
you won't score tonight, will you? And then he'll score 5 on Saturday. Or something.
It doesn't count. Exactly. And you had a chance to put him as captain. Right, Newcastle, Barcelona, Nick.
Yeah, I wish I could afford him. I did try and buy him 2 weeks ago, but the only thing I could trade was Liam Delap. So there was a £10 million deficit. I had to go out and try and find 10 million quid from someone.
Nick, there's such a thing as a wild card. Anyway,
I've never played this before. I don't even know what I'm doing. I've never played fantasy.
Newcastle.
That's me. I don't know what I'm doing.
Newcastle v Barcelona.
Yeah.
Come on. Get off the fence. Newcastle, Barcelona.
When I got back from America, where I picked my team because you were giving me grief to get a team together, I only returned to find that 8 of my 11 were all injured. So I didn't get any points for about the first 3 weeks. So there we are. Right, Newcastle, Barcelona. You know me, Ken. You know me. I don't like betting against Newcastle. And I think Newcastle at St James's are such a good side. I was really impressed with Voltemada's debut at the weekend. I think with a packed St James, it's going to be a massive atmosphere. I know Geordie's, because obviously I've got a lot of links to the club and to the place, who've been on the lash since 11 o'clock this morning. It's going to be terrific. It's going to be terrific up there. And I'd like to think that will have an effect. I think the Mole not playing is going to be massive for Barcelona. Something in my bones tell me this is going to end in a draw. I think Newcastle can get something out of this game.
And the score?
1 each.
1 each. Just to let you know, by the way, both me and Nick Bird have got Man City Napoli as a draw. 3-3 for Nick, 2-2 for me.
3-3. Whoa, me.
He stole 2-2 from me.
I think we know Nick Bird is pretty good at this prediction game. He's good at it. But he's got Barcelona winning 3-1. I've got Newcastle winning 2-1, by the way.
Oh, okay, fair enough. Well, the draw's probably about right in the middle there. Yeah, listen, I you're right. I mean, look, I don't know. Man City are just so... You've got no idea what's going to happen with Man City, do you? I mean, even in like the microcosm of the Manchester derby the other day, they were in parts brilliant, in parts very ordinary. And they played this season. There have been times they've been absolutely fantastic and times have been rubbish. You're just not quite sure which Man City's going to put up.
My only regret is that I'm not going to be on the podcast tomorrow to celebrate the demolition, really, of Man City by Napoli. And but what reminds me, next time I'm on. Now, as we know, in football, it pays to get your team selection right. Do you mind not interfering with the advert? Here at Global Sports Podcast Network, we spent a lot of time selecting our delivery partner. We chose Zencastr because Zencastr makes it easy to bring your vision to life, share it with the audience, wherever they may be. It's got 4K video recording, it's got easy AI editing tools and top-tier distribution tools, and it's all in one place. So if you've got a story to tell it with Zencastr. Check the show notes for more of those details.
Your daily soccer podcast with the Global Sports Podcast Network.
Right, part 2 of this, and we're going to talk about West Ham. West Ham, just to remind you, obviously are under a bit of a cloud at the moment. So is their manager, Graham Potter. There was a fans group no confidence letter issued a few days ago. The West Ham owners have made a statement. They've talked about it's not acceptable. They accept the fact the team is underperforming. They're focusing on the future. They talk about the financial situation. The stadium and match day experience is going to get improved. There's been investment in infrastructure and facilities. They're going to have better dialogue with fans, but they're still losing all the games. So what do you make of the response from the West Ham board, from Karen Brady and David Sullivan? Do you think that is going to provide West Ham faithful any kind of comfort? Nick Britton, I'm coming to you first.
No. In a word, no, it won't, because there's nothing in there that actually is concrete. It's just a bit, yeah, we know it's a bit rubbish, but we'll make it better. Thanks for coming. And by the way, it's not a statement. I wrote a dissertation which was less words than this. It goes on forever.
It does.
It goes on forever. I mean, it's a massive letter.
Should have been a podcast. They could have made a podcast series out of it, couldn't they?
I was going to say, I could have read that statement out. It would take up the entire length of this podcast. It's massive. So, yeah, it acknowledges it. Fine, what are you going to do about it? It acknowledges the stadium that nobody likes. Yeah, fine, what are you going to do about it? Acknowledges that the team are doing rubbish. Yeah, but what are you going to do about it? It just doesn't say it. There's no substantive kind of outcomes to any of it other than, yeah, we get you, fans, and we kind of agree with you.
Yeah.
So keep coming and we'll see how it goes.
But no real answers. Nick Bird, how do you respond to that?
I mean, it's not really going to help doing all this off-pitch stuff when they're in the Championship next year. Like the players are so poor. I think it might have been my first podcast with GSPN. I was talking about how bad West Ham were and their lack of physicality in midfield, no runners, and that was almost a year ago now. And they have the exact same issues, and I don't think Graham Potter is necessarily helping them, but I don't think any manager is going to help too much to the point where they'll comfortably avoid relegation.
I always worry when owners of clubs come out and start saying, "We've spent this amount of money over the last 5 years, £450 million in the last 3 years. We've spent that." Well, and trying to justify, yeah, we've made improvements on the stadium. Yeah, we've done this. It just feels like they're clutching at straws and trying to justify failure, because that's ultimately what it is at the moment. And it will continue to be. The reality is, and Nick's kind of touched on this now, until they get things on the pitch that are right, until they start winning games, until they look like they can pull themselves out of this relegation zone, which they don't look like doing at the moment, nothing else matters. And supporters, and we're all football supporters. Nick and I support big clubs, and Ken. And we all know that football supporters only want one thing. They want a winning team on a pitch. And if they have a winning team on the pitch, they don't care what else is going on. They'll forgive anything else that's going on elsewhere in the club. But the minute you don't have a winning team on a pitch and you see the kind of downward spiral that West Ham are in, then I'm afraid all these kind of statements and saying, yeah, we've done this and we've done that, and be reassured that we're going to do this, we're going to do that, it means nothing. It's empty words until something actually happens.
You're right. 90% of what's in that statement, the fans just don't care about, quite honestly. They only care about one thing. That's what's on the pitch. Interestingly, when I was doing research on this, when Potter was appointed after Lopetegui's departure, who, by the way, had a better record than Potter, West Ham were talking about a 10-year Potter reign. A 10-year. Imagine 10 years. Where will he be after 10 years of Potter?
He ain't getting 10 months. Never mind 10 years. He'd be lucky to get 10 mil minutes the way they're playing at the moment.
Interesting, by the way, just on a completely different subject, I don't know how much truth there is in this, but I've got a feeling there is truth in it. I understand that Ruben Amorim at Manchester United, is due £16 million if he is sacked within the first 12 months of his reign, which ends at the start of November. What is the betting that Ruben Amorim is sacked 3 days after the end of his first year finishes?
That's very interesting. I think if that is the case, look, it might be something that's just delaying what feels right now to be the inevitable. Presumably, if he is sacked, though, he'll still need to be paid up the rest of his contract. So, are you suggesting that it's the rest of his contract plus £16 million, or are you suggesting that £16 million is part of his overall contract payment? Because if they get rid of him, they'll have to pay his contract off anyway.
You're right, but I'm suggesting it's an additional 16 million which is written into his contract. That is what is being talked about. Don't know if it's true or not. If it is true, very interesting. If it isn't true, I'm really sorry, Ruben, for passing something around that's not true.
Well, now we'll find out, won't we? We'll find out.
Yes, we certainly will. Right. Final thing on the West Ham thing. Next 5 games. I'm going to give you the next 5 games. I want you to tell me not the result, but whether West Ham are going to get any points from them. Okay, Palace at home at the weekend. Let's go. Nick Bird first, then Nick Britton on each of these. Nick Bird.
No points.
Nick?
They'll lose.
Yeah, I think so. I'll go for Palace.
Okay, so no points there. Everton away. Nick Bird.
They'll lose.
Nick Britton.
No points.
Arsenal away. Nick Bird. Oh well, what a silly question. What do you reckon?
They like to turn up when they come to the Emirates, but I'll say they'll lose.
Okay, Nick Britton.
3 points, just to annoy Nick.
You don't mean that.
I don't know. They've got to get some points somewhere along the way. It'll be a very Arsenal thing. It'll be a very Arsenal thing to do, by the way. It'll be a very Arsenal thing to do to suddenly drop points.
1-1.
One of Potter's only wins.
Yeah, and Nick's right. West Ham don't turn up very many places, but they like to turn up at Arsenal.
So what are you going for?
I'm going for draw.
Draw. So we got 1 point from that.
Can't believe I'm saying this.
Here's the big one. Brentford at home. West Ham v Brentford. Nick Bird.
I'll go with draw just to give them something.
Okay, Nick?
Well, I've already given them something. Actually, Brentford aren't doing as badly as you and I thought they might do at the start of the season when we tipped them for relegation. They actually look like they've kind of got over the departure of all their best players and the manager, and they're settling into some kind of rhythm. I think draw probably. So I'll probably, on that basis, I'll give Arsenal a win and give Brentford a point and West Ham a point each. So in answer to your question, it's kind of 1 point in the next 5 games, isn't it? That's what we're looking at.
Yeah.
Well, and then you've got Leeds away.
Oh,
Nick Bird.
Right. Oh well, there's go on, Nick. You go first.
I will go. It's a midweek game. I'm just looking.
Yeah.
I'll say they'll lose.
And Nick Britton?
No, I don't think they will. Because Leeds have 0 people who can score goals. And this is the sort of game where West Ham can get something out.
Well, West Ham have got Bowen. I mean, that's what it might come down to.
Yeah.
Well, they've got Paquetá as well. He can score goals. But Bowen and Paquetá are better than anything Leeds have got. Leeds have got Dominic Calvert-Lewin.
Yeah.
So, no, I think West Ham get a point out of it.
Okay, so
0-0 written all over it. That game's got 0-0 written all over it, hasn't it?
It has got 0-0 written all over it. So of the next 5 games, according to Nick Bird, West Ham are getting 1 out of those 15 points, and Nick Britton thinks they're getting 2 out of those 15 points. Watch him go and get 15 out of those 15. Right, okay.
It's almost as crazy as your Napoli's going to win the Champions League.
Napoli. Right, okay. So, by the way, Global Sports Podcast Network has partnered with Bioniq, the world's most personalised supplements, because your body, and I'm looking at you, Nick Britton, is unique. Because without knowing what deficiencies you have, taking off-the-shelf supplements might mean you're not getting enough of the nutrients you do need and way too many of the ones you don't. Bioniq provides 100% tailor-made supplements designed to deliver precisely what your body needs. So why don't you check on the show notes, use the code GSPN 2025, you'll get a 40% discount off your first order.
Your daily soccer podcast with the Global Sports Podcast Network.
Okay, we're going to wrap things up. We're going to wrap things up just by coming back to Liverpool. And I really want to know whether you think this habit they have of scoring in the last minute is a sign of strength or a sign of weakness. Nick Bird.
I think for now it's a sign of strength. If it continues, I think it'll become a sign of weakness, but they're more likely to sort this out and get games done earlier, I think. And as the team begins to gel a bit more, I think we're seeing it a little bit already. But at the moment, a sign of strength. If it continues, especially against considerably worse teams like we saw it against Burnley, then very much a sign of weakness, because it will mentally wear them down. And we saw it, or I saw it with Arsenal in 22-23. We kept winning games late and eventually just burnt out, and it will take a mental toll on them if it keeps happening.
Does this imply that that Liverpool have got a huge strength up front, which they do, and it's only getting stronger? But does it imply actually they've got some real issues in on the defensive side of the coin, if you like? They do seem to have this kind of frailty. They're obviously trying to get Gahey. Is it really just indicative of actually it's the attacking side of the Liverpool that keeps getting the defence out of trouble? But that is only can't last forever. Nick Britton, discuss.
No, I don't think so. No, I think if the bad news for Liverpool, the bad news for Arsenal, and the bad news for Manchester City is if there's ever a right time to play Liverpool, it was now, because they've signed all these players and they've shoved them in the team. And I think part of the issue that we saw early on in the season is that these new players were getting up to speed with the Premier League, getting up to speed with Liverpool, and therefore they looked slightly vulnerable. But game by game by game, they're starting to look better, and they're suddenly stopping conceding goals. I thought Florian Wirtz had his best game in a Liverpool shirt last night.
Yes, he did.
And I think they will only get better. I think they will only get better from here on in. So the opportunity for other teams to take points off them is, I wouldn't say that the door is slamming shut, but it's getting closed. And that opportunity has been missed because they look vulnerable a bit against Bournemouth, certainly. But they won the game. They look vulnerable against Newcastle, but won the game. They look vulnerable in other games. But they're looking better now. They're starting to not look vulnerable. And although they let in 2 goals last night, one was a bit of a deflection, and that was the second goal. And the first goal, I can't even remember what it was like. Anyway, by the by, the point is this.
Good finish. It's good finish. We went through a guy's legs, but it was a good finish.
Yeah.
By Europe.
Oh, that's right. Yes. You're absolutely right. Yeah, because it's right at the stroke half time, wasn't it? But what will be key, though, saying all of this, what will be key is they don't, in my opinion, have nearly as good a depth of squad as Arsenal do. And if either Konate or even worse, Van Dijk gets an injury between now and January, where they might be able to go out and strengthen, that's going to have a massive impact. So I think they've got the best first 11 in the league, no problem. But they don't have the depth of squad that Arsenal have.
Okay, interesting. I think Arsenal are just a better defence than Liverpool. And I think from what I've seen so far, ultimately the defence is going to cost Liverpool eventually. Might come against Everton the weekend. Everton, I think, are quite an interesting team at the moment. So, okay, that's a good place to wrap things up. 29 minutes, 29 seconds. What a set of pros we are. We said it'd be half an hour, and we've delivered, everyone. Thanks for that. Thank you for listening to the Daily Premier League podcast. Thank you. If you're a person that makes it part of your everyday routine, give us a rating, leave us a review. That helps other people find the Daily Premier League podcast. 29 minutes, 54 seconds. What a set of pros.
Your daily soccer podcast with the Global Sports Podcast Network.